This episode is brought to you by Fixers. Do you have a unique problem? Not sure how to deal with it? Why not call the Fixers? They will think fast, they will talk fast, but you'll need to act fast if you want to get out of this. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, the show where you come for your rambling geeky download. My name's Tommy, and I'm delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host who is across the pond. It's our resident fixer of the pod, DL. How are you?
We're great, mate. We're live.
We're live,
living it
baby! We're back!
Living it up. So, what is that song? Anyway.
What are you singing?
It's some shitty R&B song.
Are you singing Living It Up by Ja Rule by any chance?
Yeah, exactly.
Got all of y'all living it up. Man, that's a throwback right there. My partner loves this thing. And I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off straight away. My partner loves this thing, and it's called like it's
The Ja Rule era.
Well, yeah, she loves that. It's like
Ashanti.
It is a radio show in New Zealand, and it's these three boys, and they do this one section where it's like Friday Forgotten Bangers. And it's always like random songs. And you're like, I totally forgotten about that. And I'm pretty sure one week it was that. She actually met one of them at an event the other day, and she was like full fangirling over this dude who's like somewhat TikTok famous. I was like, okay, cool.
Love that.
But how are you? I just cut you off completely.
You're good. Yeah, man. I've just been enjoying, getting into the new job, this London weather, pouring rain.
Yeah, bro, you look cold.
No, I just woke up, to be honest. I've been working weird hours. I'm actually temperature's not that bad.
You look like Kenny from South Park right now.
Because of my
If
hood.
you pull them a little bit tighter.
Yeah, well, the hair is getting long. I haven't found a barber yet, so I'm trying to contain it. Anyway, yeah, just acclimating, man. Cup of tea, governor. That kind of shit,
I feel like every time I see you, you're going to be like the next stage of that meme that's like 1 week of living in London. Then next time, like second week of living in London, you're like, all right, governor.
I'm just going to be like, with a fucking Peaky Blinders by the end of
That
it.
ain't London. That's Birmingham.
Yeah. Well, same, right? It's all the same. It's like one little island.
You'll find out very quickly. You're living there now. You gotta get used to all this stuff.
I'm just kidding. I know Birmingham's a different place. I am kidding.
I'm not 100% sure.
Although I heard it's not like, a place you should frequent. Birmingham.
I heard there's it's like
not much there.
Frequently voted one of the worst accents, at least in the UK, if not outside of the UK. It's interesting.
I can't speak to the accent, but I can speak to what people have said of places I should visit, and it hasn't come up yet.
Not on the list?
It hasn't come up yet. Maybe that's...
You haven't got a trip to Birmingham put on the agenda for 2025 yet?
Mm-mm.
They've got an airport, I know that much.
Well, I fucking
two
hope
football
so.
teams.
Jesus Christ. I mean,
got two football teams.
Northern Wisconsin Lake Town has an airport. Jesus Christ.
Dude, what do you think of this movie we're talking about today, man? You excited?
Oh, I fucking hated it. No, of course I'm kidding, dude. It's awesome. It was a really fun film. It was actually. I'm kidding. I did like the film. It was good.
That was so deadpan. I love it. You're definitely becoming more of a Brit. We are talking about Wolves today, the Apple TV movie with George Clooney and Brad Pitt, bringing the two back together, the best buds.
Yeah, they are. They have a bromance for sure. You can tell. I mean, the chemistry.
Serious bromance.
The chemistry. And to be fair, it's not all that different from
everything else they've done together.
Yeah, but there is a little bit of a different element in that they're older, and it kind of just feels like they're both older as well.
Yeah.
So the dynamics changed a bit, but if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Well, I think this could be like another new anthology of all the thousands of anthologies we're currently trying to work through and not making much progress with. But like, this is almost like unexpected streaming movies. So like movies you come across on streaming that's specifically made for a streaming service and you would never expect it to be on there. Like, I'm thinking of things like Red Notice. I'm thinking of things like this, like things that are almost feel like smaller budgeted for a streaming service. What do you think?
Wasn't the Red Notice shitty though?
Oh, it was awful. I'm not saying they have to be good.
This is a good movie. I don't get the through line.
I'm not saying they have to be good.
It's just budget?
Yeah.
It's surely
made for streaming movies.
They're fucking expensive. I don't feel like they made this to be like made for streaming. I feel like they just got paid a lot by the streamer. They're like, sure.
I think Apple just paid them a ton.
Yeah, I think they would have easily done this movie in a traditional release as well. I think they both liked this kind, this script.
Feels that way, doesn't it? Dude, did I tell you I missed out on Oasis tickets again? Somehow?
Mm-hmm.
Somehow? That's twice in like a week.
The show of a century, William up there croaking.
I can't believe you don't care about this.
No, it's not that I don't care. I just like your heroes will disappoint you.
Did you not feel my pain?
I don't feel it. I think you dodged a bullet.
I'm going to do the rest of the show with my microphone pointing down like I'm Liam Gallagher.
Yeah.
Talk to you like this, kid. You know what I mean?
I just feel like you just saved, probably $400 and a bad show. Look, I think if you're like a fan of the culture of them, I totally get it. But if
I literally grew up like 40 minutes away from where they're from.
Get it, but it's just not going to be good. Dude.
I lived that culture.
I wouldn't spend $400 to like hear Tom DeLonge go like, my soul, like, because he's not good anymore. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it would just ruin it. Maybe they're different, but I feel like I think we've talked about this. I feel like he was stretching for those high notes back when he was young. So I don't think the years would have helped.
I think Noel. I think it's a little bit like Blink-182. Funnily enough, like Noel is still a pretty good singer.
Noel
even into his later years.
Yeah.
But Liam is not. He sort of just shouts.
Yeah, Liam would not.
I don't know. I'll probably end up buying tickets anyway.
No, as you should if you want to. I'm watching Lost. Right, the rewatch continues.
Yeah, you mentioned.
And there's obviously one character that's supremely inspired by Oasis. I'd forgotten about that whole storyline.
Really? I didn't know about that. Well,
one of the Hobbit characters. It's like it's literally they just steal the Oasis story, and except
there you go.
Except one of the characters is lost on the island. But
I did not know that. That's so interesting. Well, we'll have to get into that.
I think the brother's name is Liam. I think it actually is. It's a little on the nose, J.J. Abrams.
Really subtle of them. Yeah. Real subtle JJ. Bloody hell. All right, guys, look. There will be time codes in the description if you want to jump around. Feel free, but stick around if you want to hear more about our weeks, if you want to hear about the things we've been up to. Also, while you're there, they'll be supplied, as always, by Mr. Matthew Bliss of mbpod.com. And while you're there, if you give us a 5-star review, that would be delightful. It helps us with things we don't understand, like algorithms. DL's already given us a 5-star review today. He stole a man on the street's phone and did it, didn't you? You've got your hoodie on. You look like a hoodlum.
Yeah, that's what I do. How'd you know?
You hold people up in the street, take their phone, and give Podcast Assemble a 5-star review.
Exactly that.
We are not condoning violence, listeners, but if you have a partner sat next to you and she or he or they are playing with their phone, just take it and put Podcast Assemble, give it 5 stars. Give them the gift of Podcast Assemble. We would love it if you do. It would really help, guys. But DL, what have you been up to, buddy?
This week, I mean, there hasn't been much between the crazy hours, but I have been invited to be a guest at the Soho House next week, which is like super, super lame, but
fancy.
I've never done it, and I got invited to go, and I feel like I'm just gonna, be the odd man out. I'm gonna be like the uncool kid that's like the guest, Oh, he's just a guest. He can't. But no, I'm doing that, so I'll report back on my findings. I imagine it's gonna be super overrated and just a bar.
I went to the Shoreditch House version, and it was very much that. Like, we were actually at the pool. It was like a hot summer's day, if you can believe, in London. A hot summer's day. And there was like an actual genuine football player like around the pool, and nobody batted an eyelid. It was just that exclusive, but also super chill at the same time. So I think you'll be fine.
I don't think it's exclusive anymore. I think it's kind of sold out now, and it's just like they're just making money.
Really?
But
there you go.
Could be wrong.
I'm excited to hear what happens with that.
Yeah, that we'll report back next week. The other thing, I've mostly been reading actually in the free time. We did a couple Lost episodes, but that's it. The Culture Map, which is kind of a book around understanding, how different cultures communicate. Really boring because I'm in sales. I'm like selling to new places. I'm trying to do a little bit of research. And then more interesting is the Shantaram. Have you heard of this book?
That rings a bell. Tell me more about the Shantaram.
It's pretty famous. It's like
also sounds like a great song. Whoa, Black Betty, Shantaram. Whoa, Black Betty. No?
Sure, maybe I'm saying it wrong. The Shantaram, I don't know. Because I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. The book's about, it's a true story. It's about some guy that like flees Australian jail and flees to India and becomes like a major drug kingpin or like a smuggler or something. And apparently one of like the best fictional or non-fictional books, I should say, top 3 for a lot of people that I've talked to, like comes really recommended. So I'm pretty excited to read it. Very different from the recent fare of highfalutin fantasies and sci-fi. So I'm excited to get off that train for a bit. Yeah. First
and foremost, tell me if you recommend Whoa, Black Betty, Shantaram.
I Well, what I can say is I've not finished neither, but will recommend both. So
Okay. Fabulous.
we're
Fabulous.
really, really, really giving you the good stuff on this podcast. Really well researched and very,
Oh,
very
it's
deep,
all
deep.
about recommending things. That's, I mean,
Yeah,
like,
so
I'm
far.
gonna talk. Speaking of highfalutin fancy, I'm gonna also talk about a rootin' tootin' great book that you've all already read, and I have only just started. I'm probably about maybe a fifth of the way in. I finally managed to pick up Morningstar through all of the movie. If I sound a little croaky, by the way, I'm a little bit dusty today. It's 8 p.m. and I'm somehow still dusty. I don't know how this works, but I am still a bit croaky. So if you hear me going downhill towards the end of the episode, listeners, that's because I'm probably dying. But yeah, finally picked up Morningstar of the Red Rising book set. And my God, is that a depressing start to a book? Like, I don't think I've ever opened a book and been like, whoa.
Yeah, it does. It does start in that, but you knew that was coming.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Based on what happens, like, you want to watch out for some minor spoilers potential here for the Red Rising book series, dear listener. But yeah, the ending of the second book is
pretty gnarly,
pretty grim.
Yeah,
yeah.
And so you're starting this next one. Well, to be fair, you have no idea how you're going to start, but it's not.
No,
good.
I did not. I thought you might even start with a different character. It was that, that's the edge we were going for. So yeah, like, gnarly beginning, interesting the way they work him out of the situation. Yeah, it's good. It's good so far. I mean, like, it's exactly the same. It's more of the same, and I'm here for it. Like,
I think it's like, you'll see the character progresses for sure. I think what I like about it is they've he's freaking flying on top of the world, and they've managed to find a way to bring him back down to earth in this one. Where are you? Spoilers for Red Rising. Where are you? Spoilers. Don't listen if you haven't read.
I'm trying to remember exactly where I'm up to. They have already busted him out of
Yeah. Okay, so you're in that weird in between phase. Yeah.
They've busted, and he's just trained himself back up to his full physique, and he's about to now go and start doing missions with the Howlers. So
yeah, the next part's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, it's a bit of a slowish start, but, like, I think the thing I've taken most out of it is the sort of humility he's gained from what's happened to him, and he's almost got, like, PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, at the beginning of the book, you're a bit like, this is a different cat you're working with. Like, it's not this ain't your grandpappy's. What's his name? What do you say, Darrow?
Darrow. Well, I say Darrow, but
this ain't your grandpappy's Darrow.
But I'm told it's Darrow.
I'm pretty sure Darrow sounds about right. But yeah, I'm recommending it so far. It's like a good book. Like, it's a good start. The series is fabulous. I'm obviously still a bit behind, but it's summer now. So you know what summer means? Get them books out. So I'm going to be on that beach reading when we eventually unpack this goddamn house,
On that beach, in a budgie smuggler reading. I can already see.
Yes. I want to get sunburnt and budgies.
No, that's it, man. I haven't been doing much. How about yourself?
Oh, so we finally got internet back. I will fill this for you, absolutely. But we finally got internet back in the last 2 days, and I know friends of the show, Till the End of the Line podcast, are soon going to be doing an episode on the Agatha All Along series from Marvel. So I think I was about 3 or 4 episodes behind. I just burnt through those 4 episodes. I think it's a 9-episode season.
I heard it's okay.
We're up to about 6. It's all right. I think there's a lot of sort of, like, and I hate to use this word, there's a lot of campiness to it in certain moments where I'm just like, you could have done anything and you chose this. I'm like, come on. But I think there's some seriously creepy, sinister bad guys lurking in the background, which I'm kind of excited to see more of. You've only seen them, like, very briefly. They're like these 7 kind of, I don't know if they're witches, I don't know what the fuck they are, but they're creepy as all hell. The people playing them are clearly, like, contortionist type people who can, like, bend around and do all kinds of weird shit and weird ankles. They're clearly that. And it just looks terrifying in the makeup and stuff they've got on. The show itself, in terms of, I don't know where the budget went, but it definitely wasn't on the settings or, like, the sets, because some of it looks very tacked together by blue tack and sticky tape. You know what I mean? Like, there's this premise that they're supposed to be walking down this, like, mystical road, magical road thing. And honestly, it looks like they're in a parking lot. It's terrible. It's real bad. But, like, the characters are interesting. I don't mind, like, I quite like some of the ideas in it. Like, witches can suck magic out of other witches who attack them, stuff like this. There's things there. It's kind of good that it's not like it doesn't feel like an MCU thing.
Well,
It's got some ties.
It can't be because it's kind of like tied to. It wasn't the one with Vision and
Tied to WandaVision. Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was
In fact,
campy as well.
Yeah, and in the most recent episode, you find out there is a very direct link to that series, and you're finding out more about it. Not obviously Wanda, who's supposed to be dead in these films, but it's building a bit of mythology around it. It's in you know what? I'm gonna watch it. I was gonna watch it anyway. I enjoy Catherine Hahn as the titular Agatha All Along. Audrey Plaza's in this. She's in everything at the minute. I think she's great. I love her. Yeah, it's all right. It's good. I would recommend if if you're interested. You like the MCU, you want some tenuous ties to it, you don't mind a bit of camp here and there. It's good fun.
Glad to hear it, man. Glad to hear it.
Have you watched any of it?
No, but it's on my list. I haven't had the time.
You got a long list, my guy.
I actually do want to watch that one though, because I've heard interesting things. I've heard it's a bit different for the MCU, and I didn't
different.
mind her in the brief moments we got in WandaVision. So
yeah,
I'm interested. I'm intrigued.
When she finally became the witch.
Yeah, I liked it.
Well, look, guys, if there's anything we haven't talked about, hit us up. Anything you'd recommend, please do. You can find us at Podcast Assemble on Instagram. You can send us emails to thepodcastassemble@gmail.com. Go to our website, www.podcastassemble.com. You can find all of our details there. Send us memes, send us news, send us reviews. We love it when you do, and we will call you out. DL, do you want to preface our main topic this week?
It's the main topic theme.
Yes, this week we are doing is it wolves or the wolves? I should know this.
I think it's wolves.
It's just wolves, singular, wolves. Not singular, plural, but just the word. Look, this is written and directed by John Watts.
Yes.
Loved wolves. Hasn't done much, this guy, other than Spider-Man No Way Home. But hey, he got
the
that.
Spider-Man trilogy, yeah.
Oh, he did the trilogy? I thought he just did that one.
Yeah, he did all three of those MCU Spider-Mans.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'll shut up then.
And very interestingly, and this is going to come around later, watch out for this, he actually left the Fantastic Four movie for the MCU, the First Steps Fantastic Four movie, to direct this. So he actually cut ties with MCU to do this movie. So that's super interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say he got that. He was either had that Marvel glow or that Marvel poo poo smell, because he got a really good. Either way, you rise up, because he got a really good look after. But it sounds like he
got a real good deal.
He earned it and was like, I don't even want Marvel anymore. So that's interesting.
Yeah, you're right. Well, do you have a stupid plot summary for this, my guy?
I do. Where is it? Two dogs learn a new trick, and somehow I don't think the fixer profession attracts lookers like this, but I digress.
I like that. I like that.
Suspend your disbelief a bit there.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. Yeah.
Somehow I think it'd be like a bigger guy named Vlad or something.
Butch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Vlad. That's so right. Mine is George Clooney and Brad Pitt playing like allies, in for one big job together, which doesn't entirely go to plan. This is Ocean's 11. Wait, what are we talking about again?
It's very true.
So obviously this brings back together George Clooney and Brad Pitt, who, Brad Pitt's not the best of blokes if you believe what you read, but the chemistry between them is absolutely fantastic in this. It's got Amy Ryan as Margaret, who's a senator, finds herself in a situation that is not a good situation, so she has to call a number, and it has Austin Abrams as Kid. I got a lot of things to talk about with these guys, but I think in general, what did you think of this movie?
Look, I think it was a call back to a time when movies were a bit more simpler but intentional. Even though there's a highfalutin plot, it's kind of not.
Yeah.
By design, it's not really the focal point. It's the focal point of the characters, on their dynamic to each other. So yeah, it got a little topsy-turvy, the topsy-turviness of a Guy Ritchie movie, but less overacting and more focused, which I kind of liked.
It's very interesting you said about the Guy Ritchie movie thing, because I personally see a lot of parallels to Tarantino movies in this, which, not horribly dissimilar in the fact they tend to do disjointed storytelling, sometimes backward storytelling, things move around, they have characters who are just randomly named. So as we go through, there's a couple of bits that I'll pick out and I'll mention you to, but I genuinely really, really liked the setup of this film. You're just kind of thrown into it. There's this senator who I mentioned, who's Margaret, and she's just in this effed up situation, and she's given a number if she ever needs it to call someone to fix her problem. And you get these two very different but very similar chaps rock up, and then this whole like conspiracy and crazy ass night unfolds around them. And the fact that it's it's a thriller, but with like super dark comedic moments. You know me, I'm all about them dark comedic moments. This is perfect. This is right up my alley.
It's also just bro comedy in a lot of it. Essentially,
Yeah.
we get the fall apart where the two fixers who traditionally work alone. That hence the title Wolves. Although wolves actually work in a pack, so I don't really. Maybe that's the point.
Well, I mentioned Tarantino a minute ago. Wolf, is the fixer in the Tarantino movie Pulp Fiction. So straight away, and my brain is going ding 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 ding. And like it's clearly a reference to that. Otherwise, it would be wolves, surely, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really, the point is that, but like to their point, they work alone, so it doesn't really align with.
Of course.
Yeah,
that's true.
Because they hunt in packs. Anyway, moving on. Essentially through a series of vague and seemingly innocuous events, these two guys that typically work independently are put on the same job and forced through kind of circumstances beyond their control to work together for once. And this job that seems simple enough ends up being a little bit more complicated. They'll test our veterans, skill
a little bit,
and their ability to trust, another bro,
and to grow.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think the thing that really worked for me in this was not just the chemistry of clearly like real life best mates George and Brad, but the fact the setup of it is just over one night, and it feels quite small scale, even though there is like a bit of a like you mentioned, there's a grandioso kind of crescendo to this, which weaves together a bunch of different storylines, but it feels small scale and it feels about those characters. And I think, John Watts really put together something which works.
I agree. I think it was a really tight, like, it wasn't that long either. Could have been, a lot of these movies are bloated. Maybe it was. It didn't feel long. I enjoyed it.
I don't know, like we'll talk about pacing, but like for me, it did feel when I got to the end, it did feel a bit fetch questy at times. It was a bit like, now you've got to go and do this, and now you've got to go and get that, but you've been sidetracked by this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that was a bad thing. Like, I enjoyed the movie, I enjoyed the structure of it. I just felt there were times where you're a bit like, that could have had a better setup or be more streamlined. Does that make sense?
I guess. I take your point, but I think like that's kind of the point. Is there's all this stuff happening around them, and it's not about the stuff. That there's all these plots that drive the plot forward, but really what's driving the plot forward is their reaction to it. And their journey as this stuff happens, which is meant to be typical for their profession. So I didn't mind it. I thought that the pacing, even though the plot points are fairly complex, they just drove the story forward in a way that like progressed the character's arc.
Yeah, totally. And I think the direction helped with a lot of that too, because you mentioned it's a lot about just more the characters than it is the thing that's happening around them. I feel like there's a lot of interesting framing of Clooney and Pitt in this. I feel like there's times when they are literally flick between shots and they are in the exact same pose and it's framed exactly the same. So it's showing these parallels between the two characters.
Yeah.
Even though they act like they're bickering brothers. It's almost like they're siblings in this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they are at times. For sure.
I really like that about this as well. Like you clearly get the sense of their bromance, as you may say, and you're right. It isn't about necessarily the biggest things going in the background. It is about this budding relationship.
I think Matt Clooney, George
Matt
Clooney. There's a typo in my notes. I said man, and I thought I said Matt.
Matt Damon.
Man, Clooney was awesome in this. Like, especially, it's been a while since I saw a movie where he stole it for me, but he just so can't even the entire movie. You know what I mean? It's phenomenal. Like there's
that is this movie.
There's one scene where he's like taping up the body and he's just absolutely speechless with frustration with Brad Pitt in a way that only a man who's had a wife mad at him can understand. And it's a top 3 Clooney moment for me, man. Like the acting, like the exasperated
the body around.
Yeah, the exasperated like can I do it? Like it's just so like honest and well acted that point. So yeah, he's good.
And I think the believability of it's big as well. You know what I mean? Like I really believe he's feeling that frustration towards Brad Pitt sometimes. You know what I mean? Like there's clearly a bit of him that's like, this fucking guy.
Genuine for sure.
It's a very enjoyable like partnership and sort of the banter they have and the back and forth. It makes a lot of sense. And I say like they almost act like brothers at times. And it shows how similar and yet different they are in almost like a brotherly way.
Well, they're just like, yeah, it's very competitive.
Yes.
You know, one's a bit older, one's a bit younger. He thinks he knows
Right.
but really, as they go along the story, they find that there's a lot more similarities, I think, than differences. In that they both are the best, and they're both at very different stages of kind of experiencing what it takes to be the best, and what that actually means to who you are and your reality
Yeah.
in life, and like the loneliness that might provide. And maybe you can find some humanity and a little trust, which is kind of the core of the themes.
Love that.
And,
Yeah, I do love that. It's really interesting. The humanity and the morality piece is really interesting as well. I feel like that's something we're going to talk about when we get more into the tones and themes of it. But I do kind of enjoy the way this film sort of like builds on the situation. They've got what they think is a dead body, which I think is probably the funnest part of this.
Yeah.
By the way, just to mention before we get onto the kid, Amy Ryan as Margaret, who's the senator, knocks it out of the park in this. She's unbelievable. She's fucking awesome. But like,
she's barely in it though. She's only in it.
Yeah, and it's wild. She was a bit of a scene stealer for me, like 100%. But like, what happens is the film builds when they find some stolen drugs in the senator's room with the kid. And the crux of the movie effectively then becomes about these two grizzled sort of vets, like you say, different stages of lives and careers, both top of the industry. And with this kid being like, what the fuck do we do with all this stuff, and how do we fix this? And it's interesting how it builds and it weaves in different things. Like the Albanians come into it, and then there's the other gang leader who's stolen these drugs, whose name's gone off the top of my head. And it's really interesting. And the one thing sort of on top of the talking about there being a bit fetch quest, one of the things I did feel was at times it was quite convenient that these things just kind of flourished at the right moment of this. It wasn't not all of the things that came around, like the Albanians and the drugs and stuff. Like it didn't always feel 100% natural, but at no point was I not entertained by it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It didn't feel natural, and we'll talk about it in spoilers. But I at first had a problem with that. I was like, there's so many plot holes, and then I thought about a point that we'll talk about, and I'm like, actually, no, there's not. It's just reactionary thinking by whoever. It's not like it was all planned out. It's more just capitalizing on the things that happened as they happened.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What did you think of the acting in this then? Because obviously the bromance is great. The chemistry is undeniable. But like outside of that, like I mentioned, Margaret's character. What do you think?
Yeah, she's good. I mean, I've seen her in other stuff. She's always pretty good.
Have you? I don't think
I've only seen her in roles where she kind of plays this kind of character. To be honest, like
right, okay,
or The Office, where she's like way weird and different. She's super weird.
Yeah, right, okay,
and odd. So she's definitely got range as an actress. But
I found the kid really annoying.
The kid was annoying, but I think he was kind of like meant to be.
Yeah.
In that, like, just so genuinely out of his element and so like earnest, but just oblivious.
So earnest. And I love that about this. Like, he was and like, and as well, like, I think he was supposed to be annoying, but like, as I retrospectively thought about this, I was a bit like, dude's on a massive fucking come down. He's been like pumped with adrenaline to the max. His eyeballs are probably popping out of his head.
Fuck is this guy, dude? Like an Olympic track star? Like, oh my God.
He got pumped with so much adrenaline, right?
That sequence, I was like, this guy, get him to Paris for the Olympics. Like, what is going on?
He'll be late, but he'll still win things.
He probably ran like a fucking marathon at a sprint level for that 10-minute chase scene. I was like, oh, this is getting absurd. What was in those drugs?
And Pitt was keeping up with him. I was like, absolutely not.
But like, even Pitt's like, oh, like you can see he's like, fuck, I'm tired. Like,
right. I think with him as well, thinking about it, that just thinking about it, like just being called like the kid, that almost harkens back to the bride in Kill Bill. But then when you think about it, him getting pumped with the adrenaline and being all like hyperactive, that's a Pulp Fiction reference. So when I was saying before, there's like a lot of Tarantino feeling vibes to this. I'm speaking more to that stuff, more to the setup than necessarily the way
there's like nods to it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely wears it on his sleeve. That's clearly one of his favorite directors, right?
Yeah, I think. I mean, like for sure. I get the vibes. It's not as like bloody as a Tarantino movie. It's very much more Ocean's 11 in that way, I would say. Am I forgetting anything? I don't think there's a lot of blood.
Yeah,
except
no,
that-
I'd say the action's a lot lower. Like, it's very low key action, and I think
Yeah.
that really benefits the movie overall. Like, one of the things I had was like it's so small scale with its action pieces. In fact, barely anything happened
yeah.
except for the big car chase, effectively, which, funnily enough, I'd completely forgotten about until you.
That one's
until I was
hilarious.
thinking about it earlier.
Dude, I actually enjoyed that. And then like it's just kind of the elements of comedy thrown in where you're like, how did you think
Yeah.
of that? Where he gets like hit, it's in the trailer
Everyone.
where he gets hit by the car, like does a full flip and then like lands perfectly and is like, what the fuck? And they're all like, that's just like really like he must have just thought of that and be like, that'd be hilarious. So it's like it's not
Yeah.
something that's been really done before.
I do like the yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think the fact that this kid is just I think you mentioned before he has an earnestness to him, and like once they've gone through all these trials of trying to catch him and stuff, there's this growing attachment to the kid from Clooney and Pitt, and it feels really genuine, and like they've got this almost like warmth. They're almost like, you know, parents looking down on their child, being like,
Yeah, well,
you know, good for you.
I love the dichotomy of like that feeling mixed with like the haunted guilt you see in their eyes as the movie
all the
progresses,
times. Yeah,
where they like, fuck, we know what's coming at the end of this. And this kid is so out of his element. He has no idea because they still need him to go do some stuff to actually get to basically, he's not just hanging around because they like him. They need him to do something to complete their, you know, their fix. They need him to like do a
well, they
pick
need
up
to
the
give the
pager.
drugs back, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And he's essential to that because he was a drop man he got conned into doing some drop for some gang, for some guy that was manipulating him. So I think that like that element just haunts the main characters in such a subtle and like, you know, perfect moments where you're like, you feel it the whole movie, like,
well, the morality
as if you're one of them, like waiting for this dreadful thing to happen. Which I think was quite good. It wasn't on the nose. It was like subtle looks.
It was very much subtle, and I like that about it. It didn't throw this morality in your face. You had to sort of catch up to it, and like, not all points was I completely across where the plot was going. If I'm perfectly honest with you, you mentioned before they chucked a load of plot lines at you, and you were going like, "Oh, what could that go? And where could that go?" And you know, you had this morale, like this almost fondness growing for the kid at the same time as all this happening. So like it's not rubbed in your face. They're growing morality and sort of almost questioning why they're doing the job they're doing is subtly built up through all of these like clashing storylines. And I think it's not perfect by any means, but I thought it worked really well.
Same with the growing respect for each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like at first it's super competitive and they're annoyed, but then there's like as they see each other work, there's a growing respect, which breeds a little bit more trust. It's an interesting dynamic. What did you think about the and maybe it's too early to talk about, but the music?
I actually loved the music in this, and really interestingly about it, all of the songs in it were from before like the 2000s or around the 2000s.
Yeah,
they had this weirdly like, I don't know, like almost out of time vibe to it. Like the characters themselves, you know, the Clooney and Pitt characters, they didn't feel like they fit in this reality. Almost, they felt kind of separate to it, and the music for me sort of really emphasized that. Is that how you felt?
I don't know. I just like the score. It felt very like Severance-y.
Yeah, it was cool.
It reminded me of the Severance score, and then like because it would be like super simple, like notes, and then kind of speed up and then go back to super simple. Like it was very like minimalist in a lot of ways. But I really liked it.
I really dug the score, and it's not something we often talk about. Like I feel like it's either when it's really really good or it's really really shit. You know? I mean, a regular score in a regular movie, you shouldn't really pick up on it. It should just build you along with the movie, make you know when to care, and where to be scared, almost. The best movies do it that subtly, you don't need to think about it. Whereas this, I feel like it was quite intentional the way it was done. And you're right, like it definitely helped the pacing of the movie by having these sort of weirdly quirky sort of 2000s track.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Should we, I don't know, what else, any other big questions? I mean, it's a fun little movie. We can't really, there's some spoilers that we can't really talk about. Do you want to go into tones and themes?
Let's do it. Let's move on. I think the things that I want to talk about are probably spoilery. So what are your tones and themes?
I don't know. I think it's pretty clear to me. There's like a being the best at anything comes at a cost. It's like super applicable. Like when you think about the ending, like it's applicable to even like corporate life, business, like sports, you know, there's part of your humanity you ultimately kind of lose a little bit of your empathy if you're going to be the best and come into grips with that. And ultimately it's quite lonely. And I think you see, you know, the two characters
lonely at the top
have that realization and connecting into the other theme, which is like, how does coming of age and aging out of being the best affect your identity, and like the theme of like a changing identity as you age is definitely there.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. I think there's things around friendship can be found in the darkest of places. Like, I think that's pretty thematic throughout this movie. And just really simple things, loyalty, morality, all of these things, like in this role as being a fixer. Like,
Yeah.
what does any of
Honor.
that mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like pirates. You know what I mean? Like, who are you really loyal to in any of this? I guess the person who's paying you the most, I would assume. Do you have a three best and three worst?
Yeah, I think the dynamic between them. I don't really have a worst, to be honest. I really like this movie. The way
I struggled with worst too.
Yeah, the way the looming, like, kind of known quantity of how this ends just haunts the both of them at the particular moment when they're just starting to really change and trust each other as well. So it's like the peak plot climax is kind of correlating to the peak growth, and it's like a really good ascension together of the two characters. And then I think just the simple journey of kind of learning to trust through mutual earned respect. Like, it was a very simple character journey, but it was effective.
I don't care what anyone says about you, DL. You know three best and three worst. I don't care what anyone says. My best, just the smaller stakes. I like the fact that it wasn't small stakes, really. Like, this whole big drug conspiracy thing was happening in this, but it felt small because you were so focused and the character work was so good. I had the shades of grey that the guys walk in. They're not really in shades of grey. They're both bad fucking dudes, but they sort of win back their morality through the movie, so it becomes this kind of I like that about it. It felt realistic and punchy. And then, just the fact that you've got these two guys with such great chemistry, no matter how bad Brad Pitt is, a little bit older, bit more grizzled, and showing that they still got it. You know what I mean? I really like that about this.
Yeah, for sure. The actors together they killed it. They carried a lot. Not that the plot was bad, but like, it was clearly made partially for a group of characters, like actors like this. So it worked quite well.
It did feel small scale in its sort of like thinking. And I feel like, it might have blown out a little bit. But like, the only worst I had really was the kid was fucking annoying. But like we talked about, in retrospect, there's a reason for that. He's so out of his depth.
Yeah. My worst is a bonus plus. I really like, and I think some people may not like this. This is why I put it in worst.
Yeah.
I really like that there's no named villain. Like, the villain is like the wolves' shadow. Like, what they might potentially do at the end of the movie is kind of the villain, and it's like the shadow following them through the whole movie. But if you're like hoping for a Guy Ritchie movie where there's this over the top villain that you get exposure to his past, like, it's not that. So that might be bad for some people if they think this is kind of like a similarly like Ocean's 11-y or Guy Ritchie or George.
Well, hold that thought. We'll talk about that in just one moment. DL, can you guess for me the current IMDb score?
I think it's like low. I see it. Is it like 6.4 or 5 or something?
It's 6.5. It's not doing particularly well in that. What do you think, Rotten Tomatoes?
I gave it an 8 because of that. I was like, this is unfair. I'm bringing this average up.
I think people be put off by this. And actually, what's really interesting? Before I'd even watched this and before I'd even realized I was listening to it, I listened to a podcast that had this in it. I think it was the Total Movies podcast. And they were really like quite cold on this. And I feel like they were unnecessarily harsh. Like, they were criticizing the fact that they were saying it kind of feels like a vehicle for these two to just bro out on set. They weren't like pleasant about it. And I was like, this has got more heart to it than I think they gave it credit for. And I hope people weren't turned off by that rubbish podcast and come and listen to Podcast Assemble. Can you guess for me the Rotten Tomatoes score?
Maybe like 78.
It's 67. It's really not having a good time.
I don't think that's fair.
No, I don't think anything's fair. What do you think Letterboxd is then out of 5? It's always 3.6, but it's never 3.6.
This one's 3.6.
No, it's 3.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really getting a hard time. And I don't know why.
That's unfair. I think that people are just off Brad Pitt, to be honest with you.
I think that's probably a huge part of it, and kind of rightly so. Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, you got to let the stuff come out. It's all accusations now, but he was an alcoholic during that period. So you have to You don't
Right.
know what everybody has, but it's there's some bad stuff.
I heard they found 1,000 bottles of baby oil in his apartment. So
Yeah, it's not a P Diddy. It's not a P Diddy situation. Is my point. Let's.
Who knows? Who knows if he was at those white parties? And what we finally do now is we need to ask: is this better or worse than the most average movie we know of? The internet's binary. Our rating system is so too. DL, is this better or worse than Aquaman 2018, and why?
It's quite clearly better.
It feels better.
I don't really
Feels
know
like we're
what
leaning
to tell
towards better.
you. If you've listened to the last 40 minutes or so, you would understand that it is better.
We're at 40 minutes already. Holy shit!
I
We've
don't
done well
actually
here.
know. I can't really see. My timer's not showing it.
Neither. I've only got my notes up. Do you want to do a bit of big time spoiler time, big boy?
What big spoilers? What is there to talk about? I mean, there's in the end, they're good guys.
They're good guys. Well, they find their morality and they find their humanity in many ways through the kid. So
Yes.
the movie climaxes with these drugs going back to the original buyers. But it turns out that it's all a big setup by the original owner of the drugs.
Yes.
And so basically, that's his name. I've just remembered. Langridge knew the Albanians would be coming after him for stealing the drugs.
Yes.
And the kid was meant to be a scapegoat. So the kid gets sent in, and these fixers allow him to do so, thinking, that's all right. We'll let the kid die. It'll all be cleaned up. But it doesn't turn out to be that simple. So the kid survives. They give him a good speaking to. But then it turns out that they were set up as well.
Yeah, I think it's just basically playing to the fact that as time went on, he realized more and more exposure was getting done to what whoever this overarching who ends up being the key plot reveal to them is at the very end of the movie they realize they've been trying to kind of figure it out, but they're like, it's not really our job. We just fix why don't we take it? And they keep playing on and off because they both it's almost like a competitive thing to figure out who can figure out what's actually happening here. And they end up just figuring it out at the very end that they are employed by the same guy, right? Isn't that the titular twist? And because of that, they realize, holy shit, we're actually gonna get done because he can't have both of us know all this stuff about him, and he thinks probably that we figured this out. I think is what happens, and
I would say so too.
Yeah, they end up. It was a good little ending. Yeah, I would say.
Did the ending feel very Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. It was exactly that.
It was literally that, and another big film reference by John Watt, which I very much enjoyed. The kid survives. I like that. They let the kid survive and take him home, give him a good speaking to, and his father as well. The humanity, the morality, all the things we've been talking about, clearly crescendos in the two of them. That, the empathy for this kid really shining through. They've clearly found something in each other and in him. They have a moment where they sort of bond over coffee in a cafe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brotherly banter almost, I'd say. But yeah, the way that they realize at the same time, they've almost been set up because of how much they know. Who hired them, Dre? Who hired them?
Some unnamed figure. But the point being, the thing I like about it is
the ambiguity, of course.
The moral choice they make, which is the linchpin of the movie, really. Of the story where they make that choice to not kill the kid in the end. It actually is what ends up saving them. Not the fact that they didn't kill him, but the fact that they didn't operate the way they should have professionally. Do you remember that little nuance? Where the guy would have predicted that they would have gone in to go drop off the drugs because they would have gotten intel that they could then use to go do more jobs. And because they decided to act a different way, they end up not getting murked. They end up surviving. And it's this theme of that has consequences. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. You've been in this career for this long. There's still repercussions to that.
Yeah.
And so you're still going to get got in the end. I liked that ending because it kind of shows, hey, you can't get out of everything you've done, but it's the choice is what matters.
Yeah.
Because they found unity in that choice and they found value in that growth. So I liked it as a nice little bow.
But they still got murked.
Exactly. But it's it doesn't really matter that they died in the end because they found something. They got out of loneliness.
They
right?
found love in a hopeless place.
It's a little fucking, nice little tied theme. I really liked it.
I did like that. I feel like everyone would have died in this though. With the credits roll, and I feel like they're gonna die because there's hundreds of men coming for them in this cafe. The kid's going to get killed as well, right? He knows way too much. The kid's going to get killed off camera.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, they
Probably
all-
his dad, for being the kid's dad, is going to get killed as well. So, like,
Well, to be fair, no one knows that the kid's alive.
you know what it feels like? It feels like whoever hired them, whoever is the big boss, shall we say, knows more than we know. So, like, he could have been tracking them. He could have had things in their phones. It could have been so. Like, the likelihood is he knew something.
I read a different.
And if none of their bodies were at the crime scene at the end,
the difference is if he can get plugged into the crime scene, yes. But I read it more like this guy is more just a king at reacting to things and like playing the statistics on what's going to happen next. He didn't like. He definitely once he found out that the kid was alive in Chinatown, he then pivoted to okay, and that these guys are working together. He pivoted to. Well, he's the one that decided that. But once he found out the kid was alive, he pivoted to, okay, I need to get rid of all of them because now they have probably figured out what's happened because they've spoken to the kid. And so then that was like the pivot. It wasn't like he was all knowing. It was like his plan changed.
and I almost think that's probably my favorite part about this film, that kind of ambiguity of it. The fact that a lot of it is kind of left up to your imagination and you can kind of layer over it however you feel. Like, you can believe Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid made it out. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what you want to believe, you believe that. You know what I mean? Like, they lived a long, happy life. Whereas, my dark brain believes they probably died immediately.
They're probably dead. Rather than like the way that like Guy Ritchie does it, where he typically spells, like there's a turning point in the plot where he spells out everything that actually happened. I do think I prefer this method.
And they know, the main character knows, and he's like, we're gonna win this. It's not that. But that's what I like about it as well.
Yeah, I prefer it too.
Any last thoughts before we do a bit of trivia, true or false?
No, I mean, I think that's it, man. Those damn Albanians, they're crazy motherfuckers. Just watch out for them.
I think the senator got away a little bit easy as well. I feel like she could have had a few more repercussions to what she was up to with a possibly male prostitute.
That was a great joke. And the end when they go take him to the safari and he's like, he's not a prostitute.
That's so weird. That whole scene is so odd. And I love how like they get the information out of him and he's just a kid. They think he's gonna like put up a fight or whatever, but he's just genuinely, it's brilliant. Right. Trivia true, trivia false DL. As producers, Pitt and Clooney chose to take on leading roles. However, Clooney originally wanted Pedro Pascal to take on the role of Margaret's man. In a bizarre twist, seeing Pascal move into doing the Fantastic Four and John Watt coming to do this. Is that true or is that false?
Sounds true enough.
Oh, you fall into my trap. He's done it. He's finally got him. I've realized that the more convoluted the trivia true or false, if it's more convoluted, you tend to believe it's true. So I'm just gonna have to make them really convoluted from now on.
No, you shouldn't have given me your trick. I honestly didn't really understand that one, so I was like 50-50. I was like, why would that mean that he like that's kind of disconnected? But anyway, good on you. You got me.
I win by confusion. It's like smoke bomb. All right, trivia true, trivia false deal. George Clooney's BMW license plate is in New York. I'm not going to say it all. The license plate is the same as Winston Wolfe from Pulp Fiction in 1994. Is that true or is that false?
I mean, it seems true given all that you've talked about.
It absolutely is true. It's the same, except in this, it's a New York license plate, and in that, it's a California license plate, which means nothing to me, but I'm sure it means something to somebody. Trivia true, trivia false DL. This is the 6th time real life best friends George Pitt and Brad Clooney. I've lost my shit. I'm losing it here. Brad Pitt and George Clooney have starred together on screen. Is that true or is that false?
Well, I was going to say, you talked about a bunch of bro movies. Really, all I remember is Ocean's series, which there's like 3 or 4 of those. There's one of these, and I would say there's got to be 2 more in there that I'm missing. But I actually can't think of any. I'm going to say true.
You're right. There is. There absolutely is. There is Confessions of a Dangerous Mind and Burn After Reading, which I haven't seen either of, 2002, 2008.
Burn After Reading is apparently quite good. Yeah, I haven't seen it either. I've seen like scenes from it on HBO as a kid, but never finished the whole thing.
I'm more surprised by that. I genuinely thought it would have been higher. Like the chemistry they have, like how good of friends are in real life. I just kind of assumed there would be more of them on screen together.
Yeah, I think it's just that Ocean series that was so successful. I think they really spent a lot of time. Yeah,
surely that's going to come back one day, and they'll do like, they did Ocean's 8 where it was an all-female cast. Surely they're just going to bring them all back and do like Ocean's 25 or whatever.
Ocean's 88, fucking old geezer edition, mate. They're going to be this fucking just old-ass, wrinkly Like, motherfucker, I mean, they're still probably gonna be fucking good looking because it's them, but
Oh man, George Clooney is one of the best looking men in Hollywood by an absolute country mile. I can't believe how good looking.
I think Pitt's got him. Are they the same age? Or
I don't know. Actually, it's a good question. When we were in Lake Como, we actually did a boat trip and went past George Clooney's house, and he was just throwing espresso pods at people. He was like, "Get the fuck away from me!" No, it wasn't. It was a very
that'd
nice
be
house.
fucking amazing.
It wouldn't have been
Imagine just being.
Apparently,
Imagine just living in Lake Como. Like, you've really
unbelievable.
made it.
His house is unreal as well. Apparently, he's a lovely guy too. They had some landslides somewhat recently, and he just rocked up and started digging people out of the landslide. Muy bueno. Can't fault that guy unless he's a bad bloke. In which case, in 10 years' time, we take it all back. He's a bad bloke. Who could have guessed? We guessed because we knew he was a bad bloke. But ultimately, I did really have a good time with this film. Fuck whatever Total Movies podcast or whatever it's called said about this. This was a lot of fun. Smaller scale, bigger themes. It took me a little while to get my head into it, but I absolutely loved it when I did.
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie for sure. It's a rare. I was trying to think of something negative to say because this one I had a feeling we were both gonna like, but I couldn't really think of it. I think it's just
That's good.
I understand people that are over like the Brad Pitt, George Clooney, like bro out movies, but like I'm just not.
How? There's only been 6 of them. The last one was like 10 years plus ago.
I understand where that criticism comes from, but
Yeah,
what I
same.
don't think is that it's accurate because it's entertaining. Like
Yes.
this movie is entertaining. If that's all it was, well, guess what? That's great because it was fucking entertaining. Like,
And I'm happy to be entertained.
100%.
DL, my man, I've had a fucking brilliant time catching up with you. We need a swear jar every time we say a bad word. I've had a wonderful time catching up with you. Where can where can our people find us? And do you want to wrap up the show?
They can reach out to us at the podcastassemble@gmail.com or YouTube or, Podcast Assemble on Instagram or, just search it. You'll find
Hit us up. We're there.
ChatGPT, I'm sure that actually that's a good question. If you
I don't know if we're on
ChatGPT it, would it come up? Would it come up? I'm sure it's been
What
crawled.
is Podcast Assemble?
Yeah, Google it. Try it. Give it a go. If you want to do podcasting yourself,
Don't take our space, but
you should probably
we're the only
have
movie
good,
podcast, right?
Yeah, you should probably have the only one. You should probably have good karma and give us a 5-star review first.
Absolutely.
Because that's you want to start with your karma gods being high. And then the second thing you should do is basically talk to Matthew Bliss. A big thank you to Matthew Bliss for editing and mastering this week's episode. Matt, I heard your episode on, what was it you guys did? The fucking Rome thing?
Megalopolis.
It was great to hear you on the pod. Great contributions from the team.
Love his dulcet tones.
It was a great listen. Thank you. And get in touch with him at business@mbpod if you want someone to help with editing, mastering, all the good stuff.
And you
podcasting services, mbpod.com. If you want to hear his work, listen to Coffee with the Podcaster. It's I've got it downloaded, the episode you talked about, Matt.
Episode 5?
I haven't listened to it yet. The one you're super proud of, because when I'm at my saddest, darkest moment of the move, I'm gonna tune that in. It's downloaded on the pod or on the iPhone. Because what you talked about was actually very much hit home. I remember that sad day of packing all this stuff up. So I'm sure it'll come back to haunt me.
Let me know when you get to that day. I've recorded you an album of me singing all of your favorite songs.
Oh, God, thank you. When I'm crying in the shower,
Where are
I'll just put it on.
You just have Matt Bliss with crow sounds and me singing Blink-182.
And you could also, I love the call out of you can go listen to the Dead Drop if you want, 3-year-old video game, which is just
still relevant.
If it's the right video game, I would listen.
And some of those games haven't dropped yet; they're still in development hell.
True. There's been a bit of a slowdown in the gaming world, hasn't there? Not a lot of releases. I've heard some rumors of a Dino Crisis remake, which I would be stoked on. Anyway, we're getting off topic. It's over now. The podcast is done. Stop listening.
Get out of here. Give us that 5-star review and leave. Thank you all for sticking with it. We really do appreciate it. Tally ho.
Tally ho.
Latest gators.